It is January 11th, 2021. Anybody that pays attention to synchronicity and all of the goodness that come with that, there are 4 1s in today's date. And I am taking this opportunity to bring something that has become very apparent to me today on this date, because I feel like that is no coincidence. So just to give you a little backstory before I share the news that I came here to share, I want to take you guys back with me back to around 2003, 2002, somewhere around there. I was in college. I was hanging out with some of my friends from the restaurant that we worked at for years together, and we had all worked the shift, and we decided to have a dinner party that night. So it was a little bit later. We were all kind of tired, and we all gather at one of our girlfriends' houses. And there's probably 6 or 8 of us, give or take. And we're all excited. We're all bringing our own dishes and this and that. And this dates me a bit, but this takes me back to when MySpace was like the big social platform. I had never entertained it, really wasn't interested in social media then. But I will never forget, as I'm sitting there, talking to friends, just talking about our day, this and that. I can't recall who it was, but one of the girls said, "Oh my gosh, did you see this about so-and-so on MySpace? Let me pull it up." And so my girlfriend had a computer right in the kitchen, and one of the girls went over and she pulls up MySpace. And what ended up becoming this hoarding around the computer screen for hours, that should have been this really beautiful dinner party with friends, struck me so deeply. And I sat there, not saying I didn't partake in looking, but I sat there in this awareness of what's wrong here. Like, why are we all together presently, like in the physical form, and we're hoarding around this computer screen looking at other people's lives? And I made a personal vow to myself, which is interesting, which will come, that really wasn't what I wanted to be part of my life. There was no judgment. There never has been judgment. But it was just something that I didn't really feel that I wanted or needed to be a part of. So fast forward a bit, my husband, Brandon, and I got together, and he also had very similar feelings about social media. And to this day, I don't think he's ever even looked at an account or knows really much about it, other than it's not something that he really desires for his life. And we were pretty much a social media free family for the first decade of our relationship, well into our marriage. Neither one of us really felt the need to be on those platforms. Again, no judgment. It was just a personal decision. So then, fast forward to a few years ago, 2016 to be exact, when my father passed away, I decided that it was time for me to step out from my job at the hospital, to build my own company, to start to explore what that looked like. And so this is where really this story begins, is that what we are told, and what I have come to believe, is that if we're going to build a business, especially an online business, then it would be crazy not to market yourself, be present, create a following, yada, 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 on social media. That it is part of the marketing plan. It's just assumed that that's going to be part of what it is that you're going to be able to put your voice out, right? It's how people are going to learn about you and hear about you. And I remember stepping into just sort of exploring that for myself. And there was always this little nudge that was like, yes, but, yes, this is what, is supposed to happen. But do you remember? Do you remember what it was that you felt about these things before somebody told you that it had to be part of the plan? And I stuffed it down. Many of you know, we also had the opportunity to buy a beautiful Pilates and wellness studio. And so I've got my coaching business on one hand, and then we've got the Pilates studio on the other. And, to build a business, you want to be able to reach more people and let them know what you're doing. And so I'm managing both now, right? Decided to give it a try, decided to kind of dip my toes in. And let me be the first to say that, yes, it has allowed me to do that. Social media, Instagram in particular, which is really the only one I'm on, has allowed me to say what I am hoping to say, to spread my message, to spread my truth, to tell my story in a way that I'm not quite sure I would have been able to do so quickly any other way. And there are so many days that I get on this platform and I hear that voice that's saying, are you sure this is the only way? Is this aligned with your true values? Is this what you're choosing for yourself? Is this bringing you joy? Guys, I love writing. I love speaking. I love sharing what I know it is that I'm supposed to bring into the world, but I don't love being on this platform. It does not bring me joy. And if anything, honestly, I find myself at times when I'm in this mindless scroll of it all, feeling really shitty about myself, where I'm at, what I've done, comparing myself to other people, and I don't like the way that feels. This has been something that has been bubbling inside of me, and I'll share the catalyst that has brought me here to this decision today. Over the weekend, our family was quarantined again for the third time. The girls and I for the third time, Brandon for the second time. My husband and I had COVID for the last 2 weeks. Today's the last day. Thank you. And over the weekend, I felt this strong pull to watch this documentary that I've heard so many people talking about. And it was just this underlying buzz, right? Of you really need to watch this. It just kind of came up here and there. And what I'm starting to really pay attention to in the last 5-6 years of my life is those things don't happen by coincidence, that's coming up for a reason. And so I decided to watch The Social Dilemma. If you haven't watched it, be prepared. It will either deeply influence the way that you think and look at social media and the tech industries at large. It will possibly trigger you, maybe a lot. It will ask you to look at things that you might not have wanted to look at. But more than anything, it brings to light what's actually happening behind the scenes that I think on a deep level I knew, but I really wasn't willing to look at. And I'm going to say that was around fear of, if I'm not putting myself out in this platform, how will people know? How will I grow? How will I, right? The chatter, but fear. I'm just going to call it what it is, fear. I watched this documentary and it was like a brick wall went right up to my face and really asked me to look at the decisions that I'm making for myself, for my business, for my family, every single day. And it changed a lot. In an hour and a half, it changed a lot. I made some notes I just want to share. I want to first encourage you to watch it if you feel called to do so. And if you don't, that's totally your call. But there just are some things that came up that I really want to share here as to why I am now finding it so important for me to personally quit or get off of social media. I'm going to read a bit to you guys. I want to just share, there was this man, his name was Tristan Harris, and he used to work for Google. He was the former Google design ethicist. And what he has decided to do in this film, in this documentary, is after being in the tech industry for years, really getting honest about how that system is built and how it is affecting and treating human beings on such a deep, deep level. And sort of the heading, if you go to socialdilemma.com, the very heading, and I feel this is so profound, it's saying that the technology that connects us also controls, manipulates, polarizes, distracts, monetizes, and divides us. So this thing that connects us does all of these other things at the same time. I don't know that I knew on such a deep level what exactly was happening behind the scenes. And that is really what this film brought the light to for me. And so what Tristan Harris he's founded is called the Humane Technology Movement, right? And it's asking these technology companies, I'm going to tell you more about what they're doing, that are manipulating us as human beings to really start to provide their platforms and their services in a more ethical way, so that we're not getting addicted and distracted and completely manipulated from these systems that the technology companies have built, and really calling it what it is that's happening. So what this film is it was essentially this group of tech experts that are sounding the alarm on their own creations, because they're starting to see how it is affecting the world at large. And it's pretty scary when you start to hear some of the things that are happening. So I love this one guy. His name is Tim Kendall. He was the former director of monetization for Facebook and the former president at Pinterest. And he, in the documentary, he starts telling the story about, hey, listen, I'm behind the scenes building these platforms, right? I'm the president of Pinterest, like worked at Facebook for years, knowing what they have been building, knowing the addictive capabilities and programmings behind it all. And he said, I would find myself hiding in the pantry on my phone when I should have been with my family, when I should have been sitting at the dinner table with my kids, when I should have been, all the things that we know that we're supposed to be doing. He said, I knew better, and I still fell into the trap. And I bring that up, and I thought that was so important to say, like, we're all susceptible, and we're all just human beings doing the best we can. And sometimes even the people that know more than anyone that are building these platforms are still falling into that trap. And near the end of the movie, he was like, my kids are not on any social media, period. None, right? And I think more than anything, for me, this is a deeply personal decision, but then also being an example for my two little girls is first and foremost what I want to start to really be accountable and responsible for, in that what I'm doing, they're watching. And I have found myself far too many times doing that same thing, having my phone in my hand, and they're standing there attempting to talk to me, and I'm brushing them off, right? Despite the fact that I think about it, I meditate on it, right? Like all the things, because these devices are meant to pull us in, and it's us against essentially a supercomputer, right? Like the way that they're built is to keep pulling us in. And what someone, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but what she's termed this is an attention extraction economy. So the quote is, this refers to technology platforms that profit from monetization of human attention and engagement. Exactly what I was just talking about. Attention and engagement, right? Like sucked in. And that it keeps us hooked to our devices because more engagement equals more advertising dollars. And if you notice, like, we don't pay for Facebook, we don't pay for Instagram unless we're buying ads or promoting. But so essentially the customer for these platforms is the advertising companies. And the way the advertising companies make money is from us being hooked, locked in, watching every single move we make, watching every decision that we make, that they are then creating these algorithms that start to compute and decide, right? Make decisions and throw these things out that, oh, how did they know that I was thinking about that? Why is that advertising coming up right now, right? Like, it's not, this system is so intricate and it's really terrifying that this is what's happening behind the scenes. And this female, she wrote this book called Surveillance Capitalism, the term that's what this is called. And it's the unprecedented scale of data collected by these online companies, and it is used to predict and influence our purchases, our behaviors, and our thoughts, which has made them some of the richest companies in the history of the world. And this really cool guy, Jason Lanier, he wrote a book about this, and he said, if you are privileged enough to be able to get away with not being on social media, you have a positive responsibility to get out of it, because you being there is only perpetuating a system that's abusing other people. And while I understand that everybody can't get off of social media, this is not a decision that's easy for some. Their businesses and platforms, for what it is that they're putting out into the world, live in these platforms. However, for me, this is definitely a first step personally that I hope more and more people that watch this film start to make a change, start to hold these companies accountable, start to ask them to revamp and become more ethical. So, because we need a systemic change on how this technology is designed and regulated to fully address and reverse what's happening. And the part that I'm getting ready to share to you, for me, it was the most terrifying part of the entire film. And I think the part that really went like this for me. There was this lovely man, his name is Jonathan, I think it's Haidt, Haidt. He's a social psychologist, and the way that he describes this is that there has been a gigantic, this is the word he specifically used, gigantic increase in depression and anxiety for American teenagers, which began around 2011, 2013. These statistics blew my mind. The number of teenage girls out of 100,000 in this country who are admitted to the hospital every year because they cut themselves or otherwise harm themselves has begun going way up. Listen to this. Girls ages 15 to 19, the percentage has gone up 62%. And then girls ages 10 to 14 who have been admitted to the hospital or otherwise harmed themselves has gone up 189% since 2011, 2013. That's nearly triple what it was before. Even more horrifying is that the same pattern is occurring in suicide rates. Girls ages 15 to 19 who are committing suicide has gone up 70%. This breaks my heart. Girls ages 10 to 14, the suicide rates have gone up 151%. Ages 10 to 14. I've been a teenage girl personally. That is terrifying, y'all. Like the fact that these girls are wanting to take their lives, and the part that really got me is that the pattern that they're seeing in this points directly to social media and getting on social media in middle school. I have an 8-year-old, and to think that in 2 years, this could be part of her reality absolutely breaks my heart. And which is why I am making a personal decision to shift my habits and what it is that I'm choosing to spend my time doing, and what these two little beings are watching happen behind the scenes. The statistics are showing that the children are growing up more fragile, more depressed, and less likely to take risks like getting their license or even going on a date, because they are so consumed with what it is that other people think of them. They are so riddled with the fear of not being accepted, not being loved for who they are, that they're not taking these natural risks in life. And I think about every hospitalization or suicide that has occurred because of this. There's a family, just like your family, just like my family, that is completely traumatized by what's going on with their teenager, with their child, with their baby. In the film, there's this family that is documented. There's an older teenage girl who is essentially boycotting all things social media, really trying to bring back mindfulness and connection in the family. There is a teenage boy, who is slowly getting more and more pulled in, drawn in, hooked into the cycle. And then what looks to be about a 10, 11-year-old little girl got her first phone because everybody else was getting one, and was so sucked in to the system, sucked into the screen. Her mom in the film attempted to put her phone, everyone's phone at dinner time, put everyone's phone in this container that could be locked, right? And the mom locked it for an hour. She didn't silence the phones. So she puts the phones in this container, and all of a sudden a notification goes off. And both the son and the younger daughter are like, can I just see who that is? It was like you could see their whole system. They were like holding onto the chair. Like, I need to know what just happened. Like, what happened outside of me that I need to check on all of a sudden, right? Who is guilty of that? My God. And the little girl, she stands up and she says she's going to go get a fork. And about a minute later, you hear this crash. She has essentially busted the container open to get her phone out, and immediately takes it upstairs because she couldn't handle not being part of what was happening on the device. The film continues to go on. It shows the little girl in her bed that night, and she's on Snapchat, and she's going through all the filters to make herself look a certain way. And she finds one that she likes, and she takes a picture, and then she looks at it, and then she deletes it, and then she takes another picture and another one, and finally settles on a few, makes the decision to put them out into cyber world. She gets a few positive, comments. Oh my God, you look so cute, da da da. And then one comes through that says something to the regard of, oh my gosh, could your ears be any bigger? You can watch this little girl who's getting this positive reinforcement, right? And then all of a sudden, this negative comment comes through, and you can watch every ounce of life start to drip out of her little face. And she starts to touch her ears. She starts to pull her hair over her ears. She immediately started questioning the way she looked, her worth, what it was that other people thought of her, making that more important than what she thought about herself. In an instant, everything changed. And then it continues to show her staring in the mirror, tears rolling down her face, checking in, checking out, right? Making that what determined her self-worth. And you could see it. You could see every ounce of joy stripped from her in that moment. Guys, like that, I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for my daughters. I have to choose a different way. I'm reminded as I'm thinking about this and talking about this, that the quote is, if you don't stand for something, that you can fall for anything. And I really feel like I fell into that myself. I want to again note this is something very personal to me. There is absolutely no judgment as far as what anyone decides to do with their own life. We are all responsible for ourselves. I'm taking that responsibility back for myself. But I also know that knowledge is power. And the more that we know actually about what's happening behind the scenes, we can make educated decisions, and we can make decisions that are meaningful for us and that really align with our values, our inner voice, right? And again, you just watch the movie. It's so good. There was an interview also with Tristan Harris with Ellen that was really great. And just to kind of come back to what it is that's actually happening. And his big push, what he began to realize, is that the tech companies, like their business models, are not at all aligned with public or social good. He's working at Google, and he's starting to notice himself getting completely hooked to email and all these platforms, right? That he himself, knowing what he knew, was finding himself getting pulled in and hooked. And he wrote his first sort of take on all of this and sent it out to everyone in his company. And he said, quote unquote, it went viral with Google. And for a moment, right? Everybody started to really look at what decisions they were making, how much they were on their phone, how they weren't connecting with people around them, people that they loved. And for a bit, it changed. And then everyone fell back into like their own habits and their old ways of being and just what felt comfortable, And I think about this. I think like I was noticing for myself, when do I pull my phone out? It's, when I'm waiting in line, when I'm bored or don't have something to do, to check in on a latest post to see if it connected with anyone, to see if there was anyone that wanted to engage back. We do this in a habitual way because that's the way that the system is built, right? Again, they're making money on our time, our attention, right? Our focus. That's what these companies are making money on. And so no wonder we're getting pulled back in, right? And he was also saying like the way that these are built, it's leaving us feeling forced to use the infrastructures and platforms that are available, that everybody's on it, right? Like it's almost like that FOMO, fear of missing out, that if you're not on the platform, you're not promoting your business there and all the things, connecting with people there, like where are you? Are you missing out? And that's the way that it's created, right? And I think that's important to know, like those platforms were built around that philosophy. And again, we're all susceptible. And I know that we've all felt this in some way. Keeping us addicted is part of their business model because they make their money from our attention and behavior. So the way that they described this, which I thought was pretty fascinating, all of these companies, right? So you've got Instagram, you've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Pinterest, on and on. I mean, I don't even know all of them, I know. The way that he described this is they are racing. They're at a race to the bottom of our brain stem. Whoever can get there first, whoever can get us hooked way down, and these like subconscious, habitual, right? Like daily mindset patterns, whoever can get us hooked first wins, right? And the closer they can get to that equals that is worth more, that they're pulling us back in more and more and more, which again is racking up the advertising dollars with no real concern to how it's affecting us. The quote that really stuck with me is that humans are, in the eyes of these companies, humans are worth more when they are addicted, distracted, outraged, polarized, and misinformed. It went to give examples of how the platforms are pretty much showing us what we want to hear. So if you think about everything that's been going on in the world in the past year, think about the political unrest that's been going on. For instance, if you're looking up something about a particular candidate or a way of thinking, that feed is going to send you more of that, which only reinforces and strengthens your viewpoint. So you're essentially pushing out, disregarding, not hearing, not seeing the way that the other side, the other view thinks. I think we can see how that's gone wrong in a lot of ways, right? How we can get so single-focused, single-minded onto one way of thinking that we lose the empathy and compassion that everybody has a right to their own decision, that we're all together, we're all in this together, we're not against one another, that we all can choose one way of thinking or being, but that doesn't disregard or eliminate us from the human race, that it takes all ways, it takes all thoughts, it takes compromise and understanding to really show up the way that I truly believe we're meant to show up. And he compared this to the slot machines at, like in Vegas, right? That you pull up your phone and you refresh your feed. If you get ding, right, the heart, if you 50 likes and 10 comments, you're immediately like, oh, I want more. Yeah, right? Like more. You refresh and you don't get anything. Then you start in the inner commentary. Why did nobody like what I said? What is wrong with me? Why is this person getting more comments, likes, right? All the things that are happening inside of us. And so all I'm really truly asking you to do for yourself is just start to notice that. Just start to notice the feelings, the emotions, the inner dialogue that is accompanying this false sense of belonging and personal acceptance or acceptance from others, external approval, right? That, what is that doing to you, right? What is that doing to our children? How can we start to see it for what it is and really begin to make informed decisions as to what we want to allow our energy to go towards? That would be my wish for you, for myself, for anyone that's experienced this. And I think we all have in some way, even if you're not on social media, right? Send an email and you don't get the response that you're hoping for in a timely fashion or whatever, right? Like, let's just be honest with ourselves. Because that's the only way, if we can bring awareness to this, the only way that it's going to start to shift for ourselves and for others. And I also really want to note, like, this is not our fault. This does not mean that we're weak. This does not mean that we don't have that inner compass or inner drive to know what's good or bad for us. We're literally working against a system that is so intricate, that was built by amazing minds, that they say this in the film, that if they would have known what this was going to grow into, they never would have created it the way that it's been created. And they are asking these tech companies to really start to revamp what the standards and codes of ethics are, because they can see how it's ripping families, our country, the well-good of humanity apart, right? And so really seeing that as the system, we as a human being, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. And I just want to bring this to you because it so deeply and profoundly affected me and made me really step back and think about how I want to run my business, how I want to spend my time, how I want to show up. If you know me, the fact that I was even on social media in the first place was a kind of like, what's going on? Like, I believed something that was not true for me, and I'm choosing another way. And yes, I think I can speak to this. This has brought up a lot of fear. I literally sat there as I'm watching this movie saying to myself, oh my God, like if I get off of these platforms, how is my business gonna survive? And you know what I started thinking? I trust in human connection and the organic way that life brings people to us, how reaching out for a cup of coffee on Monday versus sitting there creating my social media rollout content calendar would mean so much more for me to truly connect, to get on the phone versus DMing, to take a walk with a friend, to whatever it is, right? That means more to me. And I'm going to make a valid effort to make that happen, to show myself, to trust that there have been companies for eons that didn't have this, platforms that have survived and thrived and been able to meet their perfect clients and share their message and inspire and educate without social media. So I'm choosing love and a higher choice for me versus the fear of just because everybody else is doing it, that's not my truth anymore. I don't think it ever was. It never was. But for me, that's what I'm choosing. So I want to leave you with just an invitation. I am deciding to not be active on my account any longer at the end of the month. I want to share some really exciting things that are coming up in my business. I want to invite you to join me on my email list. I want to stay connected with you. I love you and I appreciate you being here with me on this platform as long as you have, for supporting me, for letting me share my story, my truth, what it is that I feel is such powerful work that has changed my life, and I hope that will change yours. And I want to invite you to stay connected with me in so many other ways. I'm going to put all of my info, my email, website, a way to join my newsletter in my link tree. I'm going to leave it there. And I pray that you'll join me, because this is the one thing that I know that I need to do right now. And I hope this means something to you, because it means so much to me to stand in my truth, to say what it is that I know that I need to say, to make a hard decision, and to change the way that I am choosing to run my business. Sometimes we don't know until we know. And for me, now I know. Now my eyes have been opened to the truth of what's happening. I'm making this decision for myself. I'm making this decision for what I stand for, and most importantly, for my family. I hope that you made it all the way here. I hope to see you in my newsletter. Again, I'm going to kind of check off at the end of the month. You'll see me a few more times, just sharing some things that are coming up. But I love you. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me. And I will see you on the other side. Okay? So much love. Bye.